Then some dance.
Why don't you sit right down and stay a while? We like the same things and I like your style. It's not
So,
a secret.
welcome to my last Eurogame Expo. Well, maybe not the last one. I mean, maybe I'll be persuaded to come back. Could you cut that out, please?
As per usual, I spent all my time on indie games. Unfortunately, I was only there for one day, so I didn't get a chance to play everything. I am going to tell you about the things I did manage to play, and I've managed to get a few video interviews with some of the developers, including a few faces you might have seen before. First, we'll talk about Mirror Moon EP. This is a retelling of Santa Ragione's original Mirror Moon, a freeware puzzler that came out a few years ago. It got through into the finalists of the IGF, and so they decided to expand it into a much larger game. It's basically a puzzle game, but also the new version has got a very large exploration component to it. It's a strange game, and I'm probably going to talk about it sometime in the next few months.
So, how has Mirror Moon EP been going here?
It's fine because some people are enjoying very much. Some people are like a little confused by the game, but we expected that, so it's globally fine, yeah.
So, where did the idea for taking the original Mirror Moon and making the EP come from?
Yeah, the original was like a really complete game on its own, and we just decided to go with a larger version because we were nominated as finalists at the IGF, so we won a Steam agreement. So that was we couldn't skip expanding the game anymore. So we decided to go with a commercial release of the game.
It's interesting that the game, the original Mirror Moon, is basically a very tight puzzle.
Yeah.
And then this new version, then after that, it explodes into this vast exploration game, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, we expanded a little bit the first part of this, what we call side A, and we just cut this part in pieces and redistributed it on all these planets. There are 1,000 planets in each galaxy, and if you're lucky, you can find good puzzles also in the other planets. Anyway, you can find artifacts and buildings and really cool things to see.
A game I didn't play was Rock Pocket Games' Shiftlings, which was a co-op puzzler that a lot of people seem to be enjoying and not giving up their seats so I could actually play it. I did have a go at the Tunnel Racer Endlight by Big Pants. Now I really had to have a go at this because it reminded me very much of all my Boast-Nex struggles recently. But it didn't look as bad as Boast-Nex, although looks are a little bit deceptive. It got a bit crazy and kept getting faster and faster and faster. I was very bad at picking up all little white things. But when you smash into stuff, it's pretty impressive. All the blocks start flying apart. So there you go, another game I won't be good at.
Hello Ed, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing very well, thank you.
So what's it like being in the expo without having to do anything?
Yeah, it's good. I've only just turned up, but yeah, it's nice. I'm enjoying the kind of calm before the storm of like checking out the indie games and things before it gets really crazy, busy and sweaty. And yeah, I just have that kind of like wild and responsible feeling of not having to mind a booth. It's kind of weird.
So how is Protest going? I mean, of course, you're not much in the way of press releases coming out of Team Protest at the moment.
No, I mean, the thing that we're doing at the moment is, well, that I'm doing with Curve Studios is finishing off the PS Vita and PS3 port, and that's like almost done, just 99.9% done. And then we've also got the Artifact Edition stuff to finish off. And hopefully that's most of the loose ends tied up. Maybe I'll probably do another patch and like port the extra stuff back onto the PC version, and then hopefully that's it. And then yeah, new stuff. So,
New stuff.
Yeah,
Don't worry, I'm not gonna ask you what the new stuff is. I'm not gonna ask you that question. I'm just gonna ask you: are you actually gonna stay put in the same area for longer than about 6 months now?
Yeah, well, no, we're going to move house again, but probably still stay in Cumbria, where we just moved to.
Speak of the devil, here's Proteus. Actually, it's not. It's a game called Skipping Stones. In this game, you do actually have musical generation through play. When you skip stones across the lake, musical instruments will play. However, the demo was a little bit hobbled because the morning section of the game was very long and it seemed like nothing happened except a few stones going across the lake. Also, you're supposed to be able to explore around the lake and throw stones to different points and have different musical instruments playing. And as a result, I think a lot of people came away thinking this is really quite dull. There was some debate about whether the poetry that plays over the middle of the screen actually works or not, but I'll be interested to see the final result, and I did actually enjoy just sitting down there and listening to the sounds of the game.
And I was definitely inspired by Proteus, but I also wanted to set aside and make a game that was, while inspired by, was also different and sort of offered a different kind of experience than something like Proteus.
So how long have you been working on Skipping Stones?
So it's myself and three other people working on the game, and we started about a year ago where we were prototyping the game for a few months, and then we worked on it on and off, and then we got really burnt out on the project and felt like it wasn't working, so we stopped completely. And then a few months ago in the summer, we were accepted into this program at Concordia University in Montreal, where they would support us for a few months to work on the game. So we started again full-time this summer, threw everything out that we had made before that, just so that we would have like a fresh start. And so it's been about 4 months of the current version, but we started the idea about a year ago.
In the demo here, it's actually only got you're frozen to one scene.
That's right.
And I guess you've done that so it works better for the external environment. But in the full version, you'll be able to wander around the lake.
Exactly, and when you're walking around and exploring the environment, time is sort of frozen. Time only moves when you're at a skipping spot, skipping stones, and there's an interesting interplay between what the metaphor of skipping stones means versus what does it mean to walk around and explore. But as you explore, there's kind of an embedded narrative in the environment and in the sounds and in everything that you can interact with.
This is a screenshot of Three Monkeys from Incus Games. It's actually audio only and there's nothing to see. You actually have something like FPS controls to move around, but you have to follow the instructions and use your hearing to figure out what you're actually doing and are you doing it correctly. You start out, for example, trying to strike down a bird with an arrow. Now, the guys were actually trying to present an experience of what it's like to be visually impaired, but I actually felt more like I was participating in a radio play, which is a very interesting experience, rather than the sort of feeling like you're taking part in a movie. Others I talked to had a lot of problems with the game, having trouble figuring out where they were, which direction they were looking at, but I think actually the expo environment was a terrible place to debut a game like this. So maybe in a home setting it'll work better.
And I've actually been playing Three Monkeys, and you worked on the visuals of that, which is interesting because it's a game which is all about the listening. So how did the idea for Three Monkeys come about? Because essentially it's an audio-based game. I know it's not the only audio-based game we've got out there, but it's there's not many of them.
What we really wanted to do was we were trying to think of a way. We wanted to make a game that could be equally played by visually impaired people as well as non-visually impaired people. So it was important that instead of seeing a game and seeing, wouldn't it be frightening or tense if we took people's eyesight away, we approached it and went, what if people can't see? What can we let them do instead? So the game's, it's a really active game, so you can explore, you can do fights, and you interact with the world a lot more than reacting to the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what was I guess this is just a small part of the game. It was a cutscene I was told about, which is it was a funny way of talking about it because it's non-visual. It's like interacting with a radio play. That's what I thought.
It's a very similar thing, yeah. I think what we wanted to make sure that we found the balance between giving people enough information to carry a narrative, but not making it so heavy on narrative that we lose a game. So it's important that we struck a nice balance so you get to walk around the forest shooting birds and fighting the monsters, but at the same time you get a story that just follows through over the game.
Tomb of Rooms is a 2-player co-op roguelike, and this was a lot of fun. I played it twice in the expo. The only problem with it is it needs a lot more polish before I think it's really ready to hit the prime time. The issue being it took us about maybe 3 levels before the game started to switch into a bit of a higher gear. You could argue that should be more of a tutorial phase, but I think in the expo environment you don't have that much time to burn.
We've been working on our game Tomb of Rooms, which is a randomly generated dungeon crawler type game with co-op elements and it'll kill you in one hit, but you learn as you progress, and it's a little bit different every time you play.
So you've been working on this a few years, you say?
Yeah, we've been working on it about 3 years, on and off, kind of as a hobby, and it's just kind of starting to get serious for us because we're getting interest and stuff.
So you was it just out of a whim that you chucked it towards the expo Indie Games Arcade?
It was completely at a whim. Me and John, the artist, came last year, and we were sort of walking around. We're thinking, we might have a chance of getting in this next year, and so we applied and got in. It's been fantastic. We've had a really good response, particularly about the co-op bits. People have been sitting there laughing with their friends and playing the game. It's really satisfying to watch.
How did the idea of making a co-op roguelike, basically, a first person game, right?
Yeah. Well, a friend of mine, the artist John, is quite into his survival horror type games, and I'm quite into like roguelikes and kind of text type games. So I think I was playing lots of NetHack, and he's playing lots of like Resident Evil, and we just sort of, he started prototyping a horror game, and because I'm a programmer and we were living together at the time, he just was like, do you want to help me out with the game? And then as I got more and more involved, I just started putting in things that I wanted, like random levels and like items that you don't know what they do until you try them, and then it's either a good thing or a bad thing, what happens, and stuff like that.
Myriad by Erlend Gresrud. This is a bit of a strange one. It's a 2D shooter, but looks highly abstract, and I think it's kind of difficult to pick up. So I wasn't sure how well it's going to do in the expo. I actually like this game an awful lot. I am going to write about it in the next month or so. Also forgot to press record on some of the video.
So, how's it been going? How's the reception to Myriad been going?
I was actually very positively surprised, because when I was exhibiting at EMGS, there's a lot of sort of, we call them more casual gamer types who are more fascinated by the notion of playing games than by the games themselves. Came in, looked at it, and went, oh, this is beautiful, and I sat down and and they died, and they shook their heads and left. Here, most of the time, people are actually interested. They want to understand what the hell is going on. So they sit down, they die, and they go, and then they play again, and they die, and they go, ah, and then they play a third time, and they actually get it. They seem to like, I think there's probably some problems with the presentation and what the system actually is. People seem very happy to play around and try to discover it, and I've done a sort of couple points where I asked them, okay, how do you think this works? And most of the time they've at least got the basics right. Yeah. They understand how they change the world. They don't understand that your weapon upgrades depend on the number of chain reactions you manage, because that's the very obvious goal. But aside from that, they get it.
So, you think the core gameplay is secure now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been good for a while. That's why I started this revision. This is the second full rewrite of the whole game.
Are we looking for a commercial release, or is it going to be just freeware?
No, I'm going to sell it. I can't. I cannot sell it. That would be stupid. I don't necessarily think I can sell it, but I'm going to give it a shot. I mean, I want to do a Kickstarter or something to see if I can raise funds to make it really good.
Yeah.
But it sounds really risky, and it also sounds like something that might crush me a bit if it didn't work out. So I'm a little bit on the fence of that. I worked on doing a Kickstarter for several months now, writing a lot of copy, doing promotional materials, writing many video drafts, but I don't feel confident to do it in a sense. And Greenlight? I'd rather just go to people and say publish it, or establish some other form of contact with Valve. I know people who get on Steam without Greenlight, so it can't be impossible. And another potential savior, is talking to someone like Sony and convincing them to give me £20,000 to finish the part. I think they do, because I've spoken to several people whose names shall go unmentioned who have had financing deals with Sony. The question is whether they're that desperate for content any longer.
Right. So, what do you think the situation is now with indies and financing? I mean, there's a lot of people out there trying to make games. I mean,
it's just like music. I think you're not going to find any funding until you have an audience. I think you can possibly land something if you have the right connections. Like if you've got a business entity that has some form of like protege or some spearhead personality, right? And that spearhead personality discovers other games, takes it back to the mothership and goes, oh man, we should really publish this. Then they might be more liable to do it because it's also about preserving their relationship with their marketing entity. But me going somewhere and saying, hi guys, give me monies, they're not gonna work out. It's like, I did this for 3 years when I ran Strongman. We tried VC funding, fuck that. We tried publisher funding, no, fuck that. We tried broadcaster funding, which is easier because you're used to throwing good money after that. But dealing with them afterwards, it was like an abusive girlfriend.
Oh, you have experience with that?
Oh, I worked with the BBC.
So what do ordinary guys think of the Eurogamer Expo?
I did. I enjoyed it enormously. Yeah, I'm still finding my way around because the building is triangular and I was expecting a square or a rectangle. And so you keep winding up in places you don't expect to be. But now that I've got the layout down, tomorrow I will play everything I've been meaning to play.
3 years. This is my 3rd year here, and I still get lost.
If you hadn't said it's a triangle on day one, I'd still be lost. So I have no special navigational skills. I got advanced knowledge.
I see anything that will redefine the future of gaming.
Call of Duty Ghosts. Call of Duty Ghosts will redefine the future of gaming.
Oculus Rift. Gamers will no longer have eyelashes because of the lens being that close to your eye.
Also, there'll be ghosts.
But the thing is with the Oculus Rift is it can be adjusted, but it was really impressive, and yeah, I think there might be an interesting future there.
They got in the queue without me, and so I was not able to participate in that bullshit. So I was basically abandoned, visitor to a foreign country.
Tomorrow's job for you.
So I missed it. I'm going to stick by my Call of Duty Ghost. We'll redefine the
Well done, guys.
You heard it here first. Tab-repeatedly.com.
Cloud Build is kind of interesting. It's sort of like Mirror's Edge and that sort of style of game, and it's really about how good you feel when you get it all right. And it's got a very interesting sort of drawn manga anime style to it, which looks quite impressive. The guys apparently written their own graphics engine to do this, and they spent quite some time on it.
Well, we actually wanted to take the platform you see in like Prince of Persia and Mirror's Edge and combine it with the action platforming from Mega Man and the old school games and try to take it to the next level. Like with Rocket Power Parkour, taking it beyond what parkour can do normally. And yeah, go over the top. And that's why we choose the art style as well. We want to have an art style that doesn't hold the gameplay down, but we want it to be unique as well. So we choose a cartoony style.
Yes, that was very interesting. I love the way it looked very drawn.
Yeah, thanks.
And is that something specific to the engine that you built, that you couldn't have done that in, say, an existing engine?
The engine is pretty flexible. We're building a data-driven engine, so the rendering pipeline is driven only through data, so we can change everything. So we can do this in every engine that supports a flexible pipeline. So we can build any graphics in this pipeline, but we choose to make it more cartoony.
I also had a go at Master Reboot by Wells Interactive. Not quite sure what to think about this. It's a sort of horror game, puzzly, set inside a virtual reality where things have metaphorical significance. So I'm not sure if it's going to be too heavy-handed and whether some of the gameplay seemed a bit contrived. I also tried puzzle platformer Teslagrad, which seemed quite interesting, but I need to spend more time with it to form a more proper opinion.
I would say yes. I would call you. You have a dangerous stance in just about it, like a pirate or a warlord.
If only the camera could see you, eh?
Thank you very much, Greg, for reminding me.
Feel the warlord.
Feel the warlord.
Feel it.
Wait, don't touch me.